Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the public schools of Robinson County. Appreciate everyone being here. Yes, and I'm not sure where they're at, but I'm hoping they'll show up in just a few minutes. All of y'all from home or watching on your laptop, we appreciate y'all tuning in and you're concerned about the public schools of Robinson County. At this time, we'll call the agenda. We've added a couple of things to the agenda, as you can well see in the red. COVID-19 update and the school resource officer. Also going to add public comments, and very likely to take care of that. Get there. Okay. We'll have an invitation by Mr. Randy Lawson. We got some special people that are retired educators and teachers that passed away. So we'll have a moment of silence and then Randy will give the prayer.
We'll just take a moment of silence for Mr. Donald Barner, who was a House legislator, who worked in the public schools of Robinson County, but represented Robinson County at the House level. Mr. Ardeen Hunt and Miss Wendy Britt.
Can I add one?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Can we add Dr. Charles Jenkins to that? He certainly impacted this region in terms of his leadership and really educating all of us. So we certainly need to honor Dr. Charles Jenkins, please.
And Mr. Charles, let's take a moment of silence for them, please. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, dear Heavenly Father, with humble hearts, dear Heavenly Father. Dear Heavenly Father, just heal our land, dear Heavenly Father, in other areas of the world, but in Robinson County, dear Heavenly Father. Dear Heavenly Father, we just ask for your hedge of protection, dear Heavenly Father, as this COVID virus gets stronger and stronger, dear Heavenly Father. And dear Heavenly Father, so many families have lost loved ones. We lift them up tonight. Dear Heavenly Father, just make us strong. Dear Heavenly Father, just wrap your arms around us and let us know that it'll be all right. We ask for your comfort, dear Heavenly Father. Dear Heavenly Father, as we meet tonight, that we would come together, dear Heavenly Father, and make the best decisions that we can for the public schools of Robinson County, for students, staff. Dear Heavenly Father, we know that we are a blessed nation. Dear Heavenly Father, just help us to grow in you, dear Heavenly Father. Lead the way, and we will follow. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask these things in Jesus Christ's holy name. Amen.
The adoption of the agenda, the revised agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion by Randy, second by Vontae. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Pass. Information items, have a motion for the open session.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman, with all necessary corrections.
Second.
Have a motion made by Ms. Brenda and second by Randy. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. The information items will start off with the COVID-19 update from Mr. Bobby Locklear. There's a lot of concerns out there. We get a lot of people getting a lot of emails and texts, and some people are spreading information that, to be honest with you, is just not true. So at this time, we're going to give the best numbers that we know at this point in time as of today. Is that correct, Bobby?
Right.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, board members. So we placed at your desk today an updated copy of various information as it's related to our COVID numbers here in Robinson County. And one of the things that we're very impressed with is the number of students enrolled back in our school district. We anticipated our enrollment numbers to drop. In that first line there, on day 5, we had approximately 19,600 children in our district. As of the 15th day, would have been yesterday, you can see we're at approximately 21,000 children being enrolled in our district. It says that our kids want to be in the buildings, and this also says that parents value the education and that they see the importance of kids being back in school. Along with that, I also want to share the best numbers that we have for our COVID exposures and positives as it relates to our students. Now, this work is done through contact tracing with our school nurses. And if you haven't seen one of our school nurses, or when you please see them, pat them on the back and say thank you, because they work from sun up to sundown doing the contact tracing and ensuring that if we have sick individuals, then they are taken care of and they're off our campus immediately. So as you can see, in our first week, we had a little over 800 exposures with 188 positives. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, within that first week, we had a couple of athletic teams that were quarantined due to exposures. So that's one of the reasons that number is so high. So in week 2, you can see our exposures went up, but our positives went down. So our positives for week 2 were 131. And our best numbers, based on the contact tracing that our nurses were able to do last week, is we had 337 exposures in our buildings with 65 positives. And you can see our numbers are trending in the right direction. Now, again, this is based on the contact tracing that our nurses are able to do in our building. And one of the things that I can say that we're probably proud of as well is we did offer a medical application process if parents felt their kids had a severe medical issue that did not need to be in the building. And we believe this number is very low. You can see it's below 900 of our parents have opted to complete a request for their children to remain virtual because of a medical condition. And we do have several situations, and the exact number as of today is 41, where physicians have said, no, the kid's able to physically be in the building. So those have been denied, and those children should be coming back to our building. So again, we know we're in the middle of a pandemic. We know that this is a stressful time for all, but we believe that, number one, the safety of our children is important. And and once that is taken care of, then we'll get to the education piece.
Got some questions, or some comments, about this.
Just my clarification is 850 or so that are online that have been approved, that's correct, of children?
Yes, ma'am, based upon the fact that the doctor says that they have a severe medical condition that would prevent them from being in the building.
Okay. And just for information, our teachers are getting paid for teaching in the class and online. And I had a discussion with somebody and they told me that. And of course, we approved that the last time or one time.
I'll give the floor to Erica. We got an email today from Erica.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Erica, while you up.
And out, it's a stipend roster that the principals are going to fill out every month for any teacher that teaches a child virtually, and basically $2 a month stipend, whether they do it for one child, 100 children, whether they do it for one day or the entire month. And we're going to capture that data monthly. Those funds, we're waiting on the final approval, but we've asked them to go ahead and capture August and September. We hope to pay those 2 months by the end of October, and then it will follow a pattern of October would be reported and paid in November, November and December, December and January, all throughout the rest of the year. But that has been communicated with the principals.
Thank you.
Just for the record too, a while ago when I made the introductions, our attorney is not here tonight, but he is logged on virtually. He is aware of what's going on. He's here. I just want to make sure everybody understood that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yeah.
Dr. Manuel, and the first part of your question, that was approved in our ESSER plan by you, the local board, and also by the state. Ms. Freeman, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That was approved early on in our initial funding, and that is what was the expectation together the ESSER funding at that time.
That title,
Let me ask this. You're talking about ESSER funds and stuff. And those, there again, just talking to people about being vaccinated and getting the shots and all that stuff. Is there surely we want all our staff to have the shots. I don't think we can demand it or request it, but I didn't know if there was some type of incentive. I should maybe wait till Craig has the finance, but some way to encourage some of the staff to get vaccinated, like a little stipend or something. I mean, that's off the cuff. I probably shouldn't even, but I just put it out there.
That would be something we'd have to research, and get some specifics, have some communication with the federal programs department about that and the legalities of the type of incentive.
With Dr. Manning, then I got Mr. Gentry, Dr. Manning.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the superintendent sent us some information about the requiring staff to get vaccinated. There was a process that could happen, but I don't know if anybody wants to go there.
That's correct. We did share that information just for information to my knowledge, and there's only 2 school systems in the state at this point that has mandated that. That's Orange County Public Schools and Chapel Hill Carver Public Schools. And I think, isn't that correct? Only 2 districts has mandated that, Orange County Public Schools and Chapel Hill Carver at this point. But the authority of the board, you can do that. That's what the purpose of the information was.
Mr. Gentry, you got the floor.
Yes. What happens when a student or a staff member turns up positive? What is the process with that?
Our current quarantine and isolation process, if the person is fully vaccinated, of course, they do not have to quarantine or isolate unless they begin to exhibit symptoms. But for a positive, it is a 10-day isolation. For an exposure, it is a 14-day quarantine. And there has been some conversation about those 2 pieces. But our reasoning for those 2, and I think we've said this several times, is our low vaccination rate and our high positivity rate. We have had individuals as late as the 10th day in their quarantine test positive.
And then, Bobby, also, we're sticking with the 14 days because through exposure, a lot of people will go and get tested too early, that 5-day period that we need. And so to ensure, then we're sticking with the 14 days.
And that guidance is also in the North Carolina Strong Schools Toolkit.
Let me ask you this, Bobby. Dr. Mr. Locklear and the superintendent, I know y'all visited quite a few schools and given this COVID update, how do you feel about the process of what's going on as far as sanitizing and cleaning, making sure everything's taken care of on the school grounds?
We have stressed with principals since day one, our expectation is that sanitizing takes place daily, and that is that teachers are to wipe down at certain times throughout the day. And at the end of the day, the building is to be sprayed with our backpack sprayers. Our buses are sanitized twice, after the morning route and after the afternoon route. So we do know that our buildings are being sanitized periodically throughout the day.
And then, Bobby, we know that's happening because of the rate that they're getting the disinfected from our warehouse. So that's the best tracking tool that we have, that's happening, correct?
Yes.
Good point.
I got, Dwayne had his hand up, then I got Craig, and then I got Vontae. Dwayne?
I think, talking about, the, teachers and, kids or whatever being, having shots, things of that sort there is, it's always good to get somebody that's in the field more than just one person as far as doctors, to be able to lay out the pros and cons. Listen, let's be real. You got too many politicians across the country wanting to be doctors right now, and that's the reason you got half of them wanting to get vaccinated and the other half not. Listen to those people, and if we're going to do anything, let's call some concrete doctors that lays out the pros and cons that's not on one side or the other, that just in the middle, and not Fauci, anybody but him. So get some concrete doctors. And I think that would possibly help people in getting vaccinated or not getting vaccinated.
Craig?
I was gonna say this later, but since we've got this part here now, I'm gonna say it now. And I just checked, and I think we got about 100+ people looking. And I don't want nobody to take this wrong. But there's 2 things, and we've talked about this. And the first one, folks, and I'm talking to the public that is listening. If you got children at home sick, please don't send them to school. You know they're sick that morning, don't send them to school. Now, I'm gonna tell you why in a moment. And if there's someone in your home that has COVID, and when I say sick, I'm referring to COVID. If they have COVID and that child's been around them, and in most cases, like we said, the child hadn't been vaccinated, the child needs to stay home, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Because I don't know how much people realize this, and if you've been at the school and seen it, 8:30, the call comes in. I sent Craig to school, and Craig's daddy's got COVID in the house. Folks, that sends off a chain reaction between everybody in that office, social workers, YDS, nurses, assistant principal. They start, and I'm talking now to those listening, they start with that contact tracing. And they got to go find, did that child ride a bus to school? Who's that child been around since they've been here for 30 minutes or an hour? And this is not something done in 5 minutes. This could take hours or take a time, and you get that kid in isolation, and it just, whatever you had planned, your day stops until you get this taken care of. So we want the children in school. These numbers show they're coming to school. But, you know, if they're sick, they need to stay home, at least until they're taken care of. And we understand it might be a parent that's got to go to work. There's no one else to keep that child. So the child ends up going to school. And if that child sits at a desk like our folks are sitting here and Dr. Burnett is the child it's called, then we got to go to calling all these parents of the kids around them, if I'm not mistaken, and following up with that. And again, there's other things that we could be doing at school. So that's just a plea. And I'm saying that to the folks listening. And we used to say something, tell 2 people. I'm going to ask you to go tell 5 or 10 and let them know those situations with their children. You know, they might need to stay home a day or 2 that would prevent their child getting worse and prevent a lot of other children from getting sick. Thank you.
Monte's got the floor. Monte's got the floor, then Terry, then Henry.
Mine is a 2-part question. Number 1, the list, the COVID list that we get at the end of the week, is that, how can I say it? Is that current of that week, or are we behind a week? The reason why I asked that question is there've been a lot of discrepancies of numbers and stuff, and this coming from teachers, administrators, that's been sending bus loads of kids home, classrooms home. Numbers are not showing up during that week. So I want to know, how are we dealing with that?
Can you answer that, Bobby?
Yes, I can. So if you look at the first 2 weeks, those numbers are calculated were calculated on Friday by Ms. Stephanie Locklear, who at the time was our school nurse supervisor. So all of this documentation takes into account as our school nurses do their contact tracing, that information is entered into a spreadsheet for each school. So the nurse supervisor would then take and tally these numbers. Week 3, in the absence of Miss Stephanie, one of our school nurses stepped up and was able to begin to tally these numbers. Now, again, these numbers are only tallied based on that those nurses are putting that information in. So is there a possibility that a nurse may have skipped 5 or 6 children? Absolutely. But those numbers would then be picked up the following week. So it's not that if let's say week 3 is the 6th through the 10th, and now we're the 13th through the 17th, that when we begin to calculate those numbers, if there's a case on the 7th that is indicated after we stop counting, we will then begin to pick up that number there.
So what you're telling me, actually in week 3, we can have more exposures and more positive cases. And week 3, that'll be counted in week 4.
Yes, it will. If there were cases missed because they may not have been on the sheet, or the way that
I understand that. We understand there might be a little discrepancy. What's the second part of your question, Fonte?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure.
Terry, you got the floor.
Thank you for providing these numbers, Mr. Bobby. I want to start out by talking a little bit about when we voted on the plan. You know, at our last meeting, the plan that we had that was presented discussed contact tracing, how things were going to be sanitized, and that looked good on paper. You know, theoretically that looked real good. But when you talk about contact tracing, we talk about where people sit, where students are sitting in the classroom, where they're riding on the bus. There's a lot of task-related things associated with tracking all of that. A lot of it's being taken care of on paper, and I'm wondering if there's any way to do that digitally, or if there's anything that we can do at this level to support the schools in that process. That's my first point. And also, keeping in mind that we've, based on the numbers I've saw, we've got the lowest rates in the state in terms of vaccinations. We've got some of the lowest numbers in the state. And I'm also wondering, there's several employees, teachers, cafeteria workers, custodians having to be out, getting COVID, quarantining, and that sort of thing. And you've got individuals at the school level taking on double duties, because of that. I'm wondering is there any data to suggest that when we had the AB schedule versus what the situation we're in now, is students learning are we in a better learning environment right now than we were when we had the AB schedule, given the situation that's going on at the ground with principals and teachers and everybody managing the situation that we're in? Is there any data to suggest that we're in a better place now?
We do have some data, and I can share that we're not, in terms of that educational slide that we've all talked about. The state numbers were just released. It's worse than what we anticipated. There is an urgency to this work, and I'm seeing the same conversation about folks wanting to move to a 4-day work week. We cannot afford to do that. There's really no provision for total online virtual at this point. The language is clear. If you have a cluster in the building and you have to shut a building down as soon as you can return students back. I'm not going to give names of these schools, but I want to share with you the slide that we're facing with to help answer that question and the urgency of this work and why we have to be face-to-face. The comparison is between what happened in 2018 and 2019. 2018 and 2019, this district was designated as a low-performing district with 22 low-performing schools. Okay, let me give you now last year's numbers, and what I'm going to share with you is the negative slide and how wide that is to help answer that question and why our conversation has got to be, we need teachers in the building, we need to support teachers. Listen to how wide the slide is. Negative 30.6, negative 22%, negative 21.6, negative 12.6, a negative 23.3, negative 17.3, a negative 31 point, and I'm not gonna call them all, negative 20.5, a negative 25.6, on and on. That's the slide. That's how critical this work is. That's why we have to be in our building 5 days a week. Because if we just simply repeat what happened in 2018-19, we're still going to be designated as a low-performing district with 22 schools. The only way to correct that is with face-to-face instruction. We have all the evidence that we need that online virtual is not the way to go. Those are serious numbers. That's a tremendous amount of work. We understand that we're pushing teachers, administrators, and principals, but there is an urgency. In order for that to change, we can't be satisfied with meeting growth. The highest percentage of our buildings have to exceed growth. So it's serious. I don't know how we address that. Great question, but the truth is, those numbers tell us we need to be in the building.
Yeah,
We're back in the spring compared to where we are now.
For last year, where we were in 2018-19, and the results last year where we were online, and that's what created the slide. That's a tremendous amount of work to close that slide.
Do we know where we are now?
Well, the numbers, we'll share that in the board, the actual numbers by school. The numbers I just shared with you is the gap between 18 and 19 and what we have to close just to get back to that would designate us as a low-performing district and 22 low-performing schools. That's what we're up against. That's the urgency of the hour. And we can't do business the way we've done business if we intend to close that gap. It's serious. And we're not the only ones, no question
No,
about that.
it's a statewide thing. It's statewide, and we got a lot of ground to make up. And we're working staff real hard and have a lot of demands and the expectations for everyone. It took a while to get where we're at. It's taken us a while to get back, but as long as we know where we're at and as long as what we're trying to do is close the gap and overcome some of those problems that we have at individual schools.
One of the things that you're going to hear in a minute, the presentation is our focus on principals as instructional leaders in the building. If we're going to turn around, if we're going to improve, and we are, principals have got to lead that work in the building for us. We're going to hear some information in a minute, and we're pulling principals out, and we're meeting. Jennifer, we're not going to turn around without principals taking the lead and really becoming the instructional leaders in the building and understanding the work and the numbers and how to have that impact and change behaviors, change instructional behavior. Not going to happen.
Mr. Brewer's got the floor now.
Dr. Williamson, I've been out and about for the last couple of weeks, and my conversation with school faculty and staff teachers is that there's a great concern that our students must be facing. The only issue of concern that I have seen and they have witnessed is that when we look at the numbers, and if we have staff that's been exposed, not necessarily positive, they have to quarantine, and then that puts us in a position where we have to fill in, whether it be our TAs or whatever. But when I look at the numbers, when you look at the exposures versus the positive rate, it tells me the problem is not within the school system, it's outside of the school system. We're bringing a lot of that into the school system. I think historically, staff has recognized, I have stood for the staff because before they didn't have the right to a vaccination. Now they do. And it's their choice. We haven't mandated anybody to take the vaccination, but it is a freedom of choice. But I think it's time that we start looking at this as being a norm and all of us get on board as a total team and start looking at ways to improve and work around our issues of concern. And I want to continue to support your recommendation, and I want to thank you and your staff for what you're doing to head us in the right direction, because historically, as an individual, you have the evidence of turning the school system around. That's where we need to be.
Manuel's got the floor.
I just,
Somebody else have their hand up? Y'all got Charles? Okay. After Dr. Manuel, will be John, then Brendan.
I just wanted to add to what the superintendent said. There was a statement on the other night. It's just not Robertson. It's just not North Carolina. It's just not the United States. It's all the nations in the world where they see a decline in academic achievement with the online.
John?
What can we do to get better shields? The shields that we have for the desk, they're more designed for the elementary kids. When you get to the middle school and high school, you got bigger kids, the shields are not working. What can we do to get better shields for the high school and middle school?
Right now, this is the standard shield that we've used from the very beginning. I do know that some schools did not have any or did not have enough. Those shields came in today. I do know that the teachers have expressed some concerns, and I guess it's about like anything. Some love them and some don't want them. So again, when we did our research early on for the money that we're going to spend, and we were hoping that this would have been temporary money, this is the best product we could find. And we do have an additional 5,000 that came in today. So our district should be covered now. And I know that was part of our reentry plan to have one on every desk. So we should be able to take care of that now.
Brendan's got the floor.
Mr. Chairman, to piggyback on what Superintendent Williamson was saying, and everybody, we know that this is a worldwide issue. And for me, it's hitting home. Me, like Henry, and I think Dr. Williamson and Mr. Bobby have been to Littlefield that Monday before I went there, and visiting other schools. Now, I've, as a minister, it's really hard on me because I'm having to deal with the doctors, different ones that know that I'm a minister. And it hurts to hear anybody break down. But that's the point that we're at. None of us know what we're going to do because this is a new norm. But to piggyback on what Mr. Brewer said, not just our staff, our community, Robinson as a whole, even where we shop at, we gotta be careful for nothing. We gotta make this our primary goal is to do what's best for our students. And it's gonna take all of us doing together, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. Wear a face mask, do something that's positive. It's gonna help take the load off our staff, because our staff, I look at you all when I walked in, I can see the tiredness on y'all. And when you all are tired, we're tired, but we know we into this together, but we don't know what to do. Except keep praying and keep doing what we know is working. So, we're getting all these letters and we're getting beat down. Our staff getting beat down on Facebook and social media. It needs to stop. The public, anyone, I've got grandchildren that's had the COVID, okay? So don't send me a letter saying I don't understand. Yes, I do understand. But more so, I want to make certain that we can do, if there's anything at all, from the state level that they can help us with.
Anybody else have their hand up? Monte? I'll try to wrap this up.
I understand that we need to be face to face to the importance of, kids being in the classroom learning. How much, let's be honest here, how much learning is really going on when everybody's doing contact tracing all day, running around, worrying about COVID, they double cleaning, all this stuff. How much learning is actually going on? Are we kidding us? Let's just be honest here. There's not a whole lot. I've been to a couple of schools. I talked to some principals and stuff. They'll say on the outside, they'll say it's all good and stuff. I pull them to the side, talk to them, tell me what's wrong. They're tired, they're beat up, teachers, custodians. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves here. All this stuff that we said, it sounds good, but let's get the reality. We can't get the reality unless we speak reality. Let's be honest with ourselves here.
May I address
Sure,
that?
yeah.
And I appreciate that question. I want to say up front, we appreciate all the hard work that everybody's going beyond, and everybody means everybody. You know how much information, board members, I'm sending to you, and so you're constantly reading that information. We are asking our teachers to go beyond and to do double. That's why it was important that we pay them for that work. We recognize that work. I do want, though, in terms of instruction, Robert and Jennifer both, let's talk about that very briefly. We're doing a lot to help teachers prepare lessons, that design, that what we're asking them to do is direct instruction. Not to do a whole lot of planning that would take them, that's done through Canvas and some other pieces. Talk about that, how we're trying to help and support teachers so that we're not overworking them. That's an important part of that.
Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, thank you for that question, Mr. Leach. As it relates to the support that Ms. Freeman and CNI department provide, is at the beginning of the year, we share with you what we call our instructional pacing guide. This is the tool that the teachers use to make sure that they are covering all components of the lesson plan. And Mr. Cole, if you could click on the first unit there, and this is the second grade English Language Arts Pacing Guide. And as you can see, everything is what we call a click away. So teachers do not have to go researching. They don't have to go looking. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation today with Dr. Williamson about when I was in the classroom. I remember how we'd bring all these textbooks home and it would take me 6, 8, 12 hours to put together the lesson plans. Well, right now, everything is laid out for our teachers, okay? So anything from the essential question, how to start that lesson, all of their learning targets are highlighted here. It even tells what standards that they are focusing on for this particular lesson and this particular week. We even have the book that they're going to work on for the week. And if we could just click on that, Mr. Cole, that bad case of stripes.
Hello and welcome to the Screen Actors Guild Foundation Book
As I said, it's just a click away. You don't have to go looking for it in the library. Aston. You don't have to ask
played Sam in
pull it off the shelf. Everything is right there based on the standard and the objective that we're covering that day. Okay, if you will continue. What a great tool to have as a classroom teacher. So we tried, Ms. Freeman, Dr. Carr, myself, the CNI folks, we tried to make sure when we brought in our teachers to help work on these lesson plans, everybody had a voice at the table. From K-12, So teachers put these lesson plans together. We vetted them. Our counterparts here with DPI, they were there to help vet. The English language arts, the mathematics folks, they were there to help us. So as you can see, we have the vocabulary for the week is right there. Even the formative assessment. So when they do a mini lesson, all they got to do is click on the formative assessment that they choose. There is so much to choose from here. The only thing I would say is we may have given them too much because there's so much to choose from this one particular lesson. Everything is laid out from kindergarten to 12th grade. Now, is there room for improvement? Absolutely. It's a fluid document. We add to it all the time based on input. We have office hours on Mondays from 3:30 to 4:30. Just like yesterday, we had a lot of concerns about a particular grade level. So we've already started researching, making sure we follow up on those questions. So the team, Ms. Freeman, myself, and our departments are working tirelessly to make sure that we provide all the necessary tools and resources. So we take the stress off the teachers so that they can teach our children. I'm in schools all the time. I hear from teachers. I hear from parents. I told Ms. Fairley before I came over, she had asked that I talk with his grandmother. I did. That's what we're here for. Any concerns they have, we're going to address them and move forward. But we have to make sure that we provide our teachers all the necessary tools in their toolbox to make sure that it's easy for them. Because I know it's a lot of work. Teaching is hard, but that is our calling. And it's going to be hard every day because that's what we do.
All right, I've seen 2 or 3 hands go. We're gonna try to, so Dwayne, Brewer, and Brenda. Let's, go ahead, Dwayne.
I commend you, Dr. Robert, for all of this right here, and the rest of the staff, whatever. And I'm gonna piggyback off of what Ms. Brenda said earlier. Our teachers, everybody that's in the public school, they're tired, okay? And you know what they're tired from? They're tired of complaining parents that aren't pulling their load. They want to have kids, but you don't want to raise them. I mean, let's just be real. Parents, where am I at? Raise your kids and quit putting so much on the team. It's not all about, well, little Johnny or little Tommy. Raise your kids and make the sacrifices that you need to make to try to help the system in general with your teachers and everybody that's involved. I've seen it. I hear it. I hear it till my ears hurt. Teachers are, their morale is low because of parents. And listen, quit giving in to them. That's what it is. And do what you're supposed to do. They need to start making the sacrifices and quit. Okay, yeah. No, do your part and raise your kids and help the teachers. And then that way it can kind of start helping the morale instead of, well, we got to appease. No, you don't have to appease. I mean, they are getting a free education by some of the best teachers I feel like we've got in this county. It's free. And the only thing that you want to do is you want to ridicule them. You want to tear them down all the time. Stop it. Raise your kids. Do your part. Kids, do your part. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Quit putting so much on the teachers. Thank you. I hate to be like that, but you hear it and you got to put it out there and you got to let them know. Everybody's got to work together, and I'll say it again and I'm going to hush. Parents, raise your kids, do your part. Thank you.
Mr. Brewer?
I'll yield to Ms. Brenda.
To me. Yield to me. Superintendent Williams, PSRC staff, Mr. Leach, I can say of the schools that I've been to, teaching is actually taking place in our district. I run across some of you all, and I stand back and just listen, and then I walk through, and I'm really amazed at what I see them doing. I see them cleaning, and I don't know where they get all the strength from except God, but I'm telling you, Our staff is doing the best that they know how to do. Our principals and everything is really doing a magnificent job. It's just a new thing that we're under right now. We got unanswered questions we don't know how to answer, and I'm gonna leave that alone, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
I'm sorry, quickly, Ms. Freeman, talk about intervention and what that's gonna look like, the power of classwork, the formative assessment, the data that teachers are gonna have that really speeds up that process, how strong that support is, please.
And so what I would like to share with you is, we'll go back to ESSER earlier. You know, when we first stood before you and talked about ESSER, we talked about the learning loss and how we were to address that in ESSER funding. And if you recall, we put approximately $26 million in terms of learning loss. Part of that was to create the framework of support for the staff. That's very essential that we have that framework of support. Within that framework of support, we have academic coaches. They are here with us routinely, and they're looking at their data, they're looking at how they go back and help those teachers. We also have the interventionists that I think that we have several of those being recommended tonight for your approval. Those interventionists will work with Letterland K2, and that part of that purpose for working with Letterland K2 is to go in. If you recall earlier, prior to the COVID or prior to the pandemic, we had the learning loss at grades K2. It was very intense. It still continues to be even more intense. If you recall, we also hired a K2 literacy specialist at the district level to support that movement and that process that we had in the district. So we will have those interventionists to help support the K2, the foundational grades. We will also use classworks that will help to come in to help our students as they move through the multi-tiered process of support, helping provide those interventions for Tier 2 and Tier 3. To drill down just very briefly, classworks actually goes in, looks at the data of the student, actually analyzes that data, finds the root of what is causing those gaps or those skill deficits, and then provides exact lessons for those teachers to deliver. So that was part of the selection of choosing classworks, is because we wanted to take and find a tool that actually leveled the work for the teacher and leveled the playing ground for the students, so the teacher did not have to go in and undergird that need for those students, helping them again find those lesson plans to go directly to address those skill gaps. Because all of our children will be in Tier 1, meaning they all get the core. But what we know that's happening with that learning loss that we see, that the numbers Dr. Williamson gave you, is all of our children are going to be in Tier 1 and Tier 2. So teachers are going to have to provide those lessons from classworks, but they're already ready for them. So those are key pieces that we've added to that work to help support the teachers. Another piece would be the assistant principal too, that would actually help that principal lighten the load of the daily operations to actually get in those classrooms and provide that feedback, that observational data, that digging down deep into the data to look at where our students are. So there is a strong framework of support that we put in place using the ESSER funding to support not only the principals, but the teachers as well. But most importantly, is to support those children. Because when you hear those numbers, as you've said, everyone across the nation, they're staggering. So we're going to have to continue to support each other as we move forward. It has to be one team, one goal.
Mr. Chair, my question was going to be to Dr. Locklear. I understand you got a process, you got a pre-made plan for a teacher. Now, if a fill-in comes in that classroom for some obvious reason, the teacher can't be there, do they have access to that same material? And reference to Mr. Leach and the comment, I asked myself the same question, Mr. Vontae, and what come to my mind is how much education is going on in the classroom, how much education is going on if they're virtual. I'm seeing a lot of kids out on the four-wheelers and everything else if we leave them at home. I think we're better off to gamble to have them face-to-face.
To answer your first question, Mr. Brewer, yes, we work with our digital teaching and learning facilitators, and we were able to work through Canvas, through their learning management system, so we can set up our substitutes that are long-term. They have the same access as a regular classroom teacher, so they have all the tools necessary to pick up with the lessons, just like a regular education.
Thank all y'all for your input and your insight and for what you're doing for the public schools of Roberts County and the children and staff. At this time, we're gonna move to the next agenda item, which we've had a few instances at a couple of schools. And I've had a couple of board members contact me and they want to talk about replace school resource officers. And, at this time, Mr. Bobby's gonna give us a little update. Got a sheet at your desk where who all has the resource officer and return.
Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, board members. So what I placed at your desk is a copy of all of our resource officers currently assigned in the district and what their locations are. You know, we do have resource officers that are supplied through us through the Wilmington Police Department, Pembroke Police Department, Red Springs, St. Paul's, and also through the Sheriff's Department. We do not have resource officers assigned in every one of our schools. We do have them in all of our high schools, and our middle schools share a resource officer. Some of our middle schools have full-time resource officers depending on if they're inside a municipality. But our middle schools that are outside in the county share a resource officer. And if you can see on the list, there are a couple of vacancies. Currently, Wilmington Senior High has a vacancy and also Pembroke Middle. But I've been assured by those departments that assistance has been provided. I do know at Pembroke Middle, they are rotating a police officer there. If they are off duty, then they are coming there and working in the absence of a person coming in.
Anybody have any questions? We've had some concerns at some different schools. Dwayne, you got the floor.
Do you have, how close are we getting the vacancy of a Wilmington Senior High? Or
That one I am not sure of. I have not followed back up with, I believe the Sergeant White, but I can touch base with her and find out where we're at with that position. And again, in any situation, I do know I was at Wilmington High last week and they had several officers there that do come in and assist at the will of any of the resource officers that are assigned there.
Tell me this, Bob, if you don't mind, with some of the things that have happened in individual schools, and you hear people talk again about the metal detectors, and I understand you go through the metal detectors, take 2 or 3 hours, you can't check it. We need to be, I understand we're doing more random checks. Well, I mean, we got to be more visible to students to let them know that, doing everything I can, make sure that the staff's safe and each student is safe. How's that progressing?
We have, every year we have conversations around the use of the metal detectors. And again, you're absolutely correct. It will take hours for our kids to go through those metal detectors to get into the building. I think at one time we measured, it takes about 10 seconds from beginning to end for someone to go through. But we have talked with our high school principals, all in the process of developing random searches throughout the buildings to go in. And again, this is just another measure of saying we want to keep our campuses safe. So we're going to go in, and again, this is totally random. It could be first period today, next week it could be fourth period. But again, we're gonna be in those classrooms looking for anything that's going to make our campuses unsafe.
Emmanuel?
This question is for Miss Erica. Didn't we get a grant to pay for some of these, and how close is that grant to coming to an end?
The grant has already ended.
So you picked up the cost of them?
At that time, they took the officers back that were helping and filling in for some other vacancies. So it worked out where they have switched those from SRO officers to their regular officers. So we didn't have to pick up any additional costs.
Mr. Gentry, you got the floor.
Municipalities are using them in a different way.
So the school system lost the positions. I mean, we don't have the same number we had at that point. Is that correct?
Well, the numbers didn't fluctuate that much. It may have been 1 or 2 because of the vacancies that were existing at that time and the way they were spreading them out, where they might have shared one, they might have had a whole one, so it might have ended up being a half.
Okay, thank you.
The numbers are not off by that much due to the grant.
Mr. Gentry, you got the floor now.
Do we have any data or any feedback in regards to our current climate with COVID in terms of incidences or friction or anything relative to COVID?
I would say at the current time, the answer to that would be, it doesn't appear to be any different than any normal school year.
Brenda's got the floor.
Mr. Bobby, the metal detectors is that I received a lot of information in regards to concerns. Do we have enough at Lumberton Senior, or do we need to order some? I remember years ago, they used to be at the back. I think, was you out there then? I
We
know.
never used them over there.
Okay, there was some at the back, not far from the auditorium. They had the front, and they seemed like there was some other, in other places that could cut down on the time it would take us to get the students through.
I do not know how many Lumberton High has, but I'll be glad to, Mr. Simmons says 5. So again, with the points of entry from the buses to the front. So again, it's just gonna be very time consuming if that was something that we tried to employ.
A follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is, do we, sometimes you got a traffic control thing that you go through, and then you have to come up with a plan for that to eliminate the traffic without stoplights. Have we looked at other school districts that's Lumberton Senior size, for an example, and they had a plan that was working? If not, Mr. Chairman, could we look at that?
Yeah, we have reviewed and we're constantly having that conversation. We really talked about the metal detectors and then, you have to set that so it would alert, and a lot of times you have to set it so high, it alerts on anything that's up, and so that sets it back. So a lot of issues with that. The random searches is really gonna pay off for us. We've been very open and transparent with the local paper. We're not hiding anything. If somebody had a weapon on campus, we want it in the paper. And we're determined that parents can help us communicate to us, and so we're asking for that. Hopefully, we won't have to get to the point that we do have to use the metal detectors as a walkthrough, because again, there's just a lot of issues. I'm not sure of any that's doing that at this point, I'll be honest.
Mr. Simmons got the floor.
As far as the metal detectors, they're good, but Lumberton, the way Lumberton School is built, it's not gonna work there, because you're gonna have to have at least, if you got 6 doors in the front, you're gonna have to have one for each door. You're gonna have to have an officer there, because if they find something, the staff can't do it, the officer gonna have to do it. At the back of the buses, they go 2 ways, either to the auditorium or to the cafeteria, so you're gonna have 2 officers back there. When we was there, we did the random searches, and it worked a whole lot better. You can't stop them from bringing weapons in there. No matter what you do, it's gonna happen. So the best thing we can do is just do the random searches at all schools, and that'll work a whole lot better.
Thank you, sir.
Dwayne's got the floor.
And this question is to Mr. John right here. So we've got the random searches, but what about the
Ones, we use those on random searches.
okay,
When we do the random searches, the way it works is we pick a class, say we're gonna go on F wing that day. We're gonna take 10 classes off F wing. We start the first class, go in there, get everybody the book bag, bring it outside. When they start coming out, we warn them then. Then we have them pick the book bag up, then we search them physically that way.
does the one pick up like if people walked in the front, or does it have to be proximity away from a person, or?
They have to be up close. The thing with the wand and the metal detectors, if you got a buck on it, it's gonna go off. So therefore, you're gonna have to physically search the person.
And we're not sure.
And to the public that's listening, you can really help us with this issue. If you see something, if you hear something, please say something. I mean, that's just critical, because nothing happens in a school that somebody did not have prior knowledge of, trust me. And so we're pleading with our parents, with our communities, with our students. If you see something, if you hear something, please say something. Thank you.
Okay. Craig?
Just real quick too, the one helps when they unload buses. You can be standing outside, buses come in and students getting off. And I've seen it done where you just stand out there with a couple of officers or staff and have a wand and use that wand then. And I will tell you what will happen in that case. First few kids see that wand out there, they go to leaving things on the bus. And what you're doing then, you might didn't catch the kid with you, but you kept it on the bus and then you go search that bus after everybody leaves. And you will find things sometimes. So buses is a place too that the wands can be used.
Good point, yes.
All right, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. Mr. Terry Locklear.
Just have something I'd like to say real quick to my fellow board members here. You know, we talked about public comments at the last meeting, but I thought about it a little bit later and I said, you know, I was just thinking I'd like to expand a little bit on what we discussed. I know right now what we're doing is legal in terms of the law, but you know, it's been a year and a half since we've had any meaningful public comments. And I think it's interesting that the way we're handling our public comments right now is through the web form, and everybody has access to it. You can go right on the public schools website and look at those. But I would like for all of us to take an inventory of ourselves and just, you know, think about, are we really doing our due diligence in that? And I really think it's interesting that the same policymakers above us that are allowing us to send children back to school and teachers back to school in a face-to-face environment is also allowing us to keep the public out of these meetings. And I understand, you know, the sort of rationale for that. But I think that as a body that we get quite a few emails. It's not necessarily an official public comment, but even those that are submitted via the form, I do think that we should rethink how we're handling those. And when I say public, it's not just anybody out on the street. I'm talking about our constituents, our customers, our parents, you know, our children's parents, those that we serve. And these are the individuals that vote us in and allow us to have these seats, and they're the ones that's keeping the lights on in here. So I do think that we need to reconsider how we're handling those.
Any other comments? Okay. Agenda, the North Carolina Instructional Leadership Academy. Lee Emery's here and Jessica Flint.
Evening.
Feels like home. I just want to brag on you just a little bit before we get into the heart of our presentation tonight. I can't say enough. I think the saying that you can't see yourself is very true. And I just want to say what a joy and a pleasure it is to watch this body at work, to see these leaders who we've come to know, to watch your superintendent lead, just listening in these first few minutes of your meeting to what you've done, this enormous work done to support teachers. You don't look like, act like, behave, or lead like a low-performing school district. And I think that's why all of us know these gaps are going to close. And we're excited to still be around. Not because you need us so much, but as a partner. And so tonight, Jessica and I want to share what has truly been led by this district, particularly Dr. Williamson's vision. And if you'll forgive me as an old school teacher, right in the middle of the pandemic, the Wallace Foundation released new research. And we've always known the teacher was the heart of the classroom and student achievement. This new research, while not rocket science, said for the first time we have research that says the principal rivals the teacher's influence. A good principal can have as much impact on student achievement as that classroom teacher can. We all know we can't be in this business without the teacher. But I just applaud what has happened here, because at the same time at the department, we were looking for what is the role of DPI? If we have some revenue and some resources to support districts, what does that look like? We can't do the work. We're not here. We're not the people who will sustain it when the funds run out. So what does our role look like? We began having some conversations with Paul Bainbrook Santoya. For those of you who are educators, you may know him as Leverage Leadership. He started the Leverage Leadership Institute. He's done work around the world in how we manage our time. So what we're doing here, this partnership, this work that we're going to talk about tonight, it's not really new. What's new about it is us being very prepared, planned, and strategic about how leaders use their time. So I also want to say, we are thrilled that this is the only district. This is our first and only district right now involved in the beginning of the North Carolina Instructional Leadership Academy. The first. We believe with all our heart and soul that what you're doing here, the dedicated resources that Dr. Williamson has put in schools with coaches, with assistant principals, this training, the kind of coaching that sort of wraps its arm around the principal as the instructional leader is going to be a huge lever for sort of catapulting across those gaps that you heard earlier. We're excited about this. We're also excited selfishly to be able to go back to the General Assembly, to go back to the Governor's Commission and say, look what's happening in the public schools of Robeson County. This strategy works, because if it works here, we can try to leverage support for other districts that need this exact kind of wraparound support, training, coaching. So thank you. We're excited about what we see here. And I'll wrap back in at the end to help with questions. But I do want to say, I almost feel like a parent, and I hope you'll forgive me. We've been here 2 years, and this is a district on the move. This is a board that supports their district and their teachers. This is a leadership team that is working so hard. It gives me huge joy and pride to just be here and tell you from an outside perspective how incredible the work you're doing is. And I just want you to give yourself a little credit. I think sometimes you get caught up in all these issues that are huge, and you don't see this shining star that you have here in the district. So thank you for letting us be here. Can we move to, we'll move into the next slide.
Move us forward. Thank you.
I don't know if you've heard this, our new superintendent, who started at about the same time yours did, our state superintendent, Catherine Truitt, has reorganized our work in the department around what we're calling Operation Polaris. The work that we're doing is that burgundy and purplish circle in the middle, which is really how do we operationalize the work that's going on in the rest of the district. And you see that through Jessica, because she's a part of your district and here regularly. How does the department push out support for all these other circles? And you have those circles going on in your district as well. What happened with this timing is that the focus on leadership really aligned to Dr. Williamson's vision for where, if you're going to put your resources and your time, will you get the most outcome for students? And that's really investing in your building level leadership. So it worked for us with a little bit of resource that we have to be able to take on the cost of this academy and the training. I will also say you are the only district that also has invested in this work. So as we like to say at the department, there's skin in the game from the public schools of Robeson County as well, which makes this a real partnership. I'm going to let Jess talk a little more about the real details of this and what's going on and the work that's gone on with the district and the department.
Thank you. Good evening. It is so nice to see all of you again this evening. I'm could echo every word that Dr. Embry just said about my pride in this, in all of you, every person who is in this room. And if I can just take a personal point of privilege here to say that when Dr. Robert was talking about the lesson plan design and the work that was happening there, I just have to share with you that that work is creating equity of opportunity for every student in your system. Having teachers have those resources ensures that every child, no matter what the grade level, no matter what classroom that they're being educated in, that those teachers and those potential long-term subs or whoever may need to be in that spot for that day, those children have equity of access to quality information. So I wanted to say thank you. I know that's been a heavy lift, but it's been an ongoing project that I know that you have been committed to, and I just applaud that. Couldn't be more thrilled about Operation Polaris and couldn't be more thrilled about the work. So Mr. Cole, if you'll lead us forward here. Dr. Emery alluded to the fact that we've done a lot of soul searching about what is the state agency's responsibility in helping districts, because we are not here every day. But if we could have any resourcing, what could it be that we could lend to the table? And again, the alignment of Dr. Williamson's vision from the very get-go, your superintendent has believed in the power of the principal as being a critical component in school turnaround and then therefore district turnaround. So critically important. So when we started looking at it, we did land as an agency on leverage leadership. Last year, I would say that Dr. Robert actually participated in the Sand Hills region. We did sort of an intro. We dipped our toe in the water a little bit with district leaders from across the region in Paul Bambrick-Centorio's work to think about what are the levers that really move schools? What are the levers that if we pull them at the right times will get us there quicker in our work? It gives us intentionality and focus. And so therefore, we did initiate a partnership with Relay, the Graduate School of Education, the Leverage Leadership Institute, and the Public Schools of Robeson County. So one of the things, and I really want to stress about this, is partnership. And I will also have to tell you very humbly that Dr. Williamson and his team have helped us at the agency better understand what the word partnership truly means. Partners don't come in barnstorming and saying, here's what you get. Partners come to the table together. And just like in any relationship, there is give and there is take. And I would say to you that your superintendent is a masterful advocate for what he believes is the right thing. So when we're at that table together, and I will tell you, I've learned some great lessons, and Dr. Williamson and I have laughed about this, about just needing to have that constant source of communication so that we understand where each other are seated here. That I understand that when we're talking about dates, that Dr. Williamson and his team will be part of those conversations about dates of things that are happening. When we're talking about the people who may be coming to support, that there is some vetting of those people by the leadership team here in this district. That's what true partnership means. And we are tremendously grateful for those lessons that we are learning in this as well. So what does this look like in your district? What's happening right now? Well, technically, we're doing a 3-year process with you. So what we are engaged in is lending funds from the agency and the Public Schools of Robeson County to create a Principal Leadership Institute. And over the course of these next 3 years, your district is serving as the statewide model, not only for this model as far as going back to our General Assembly, but also a national model. Because the work of Paul Bambrick-Centorio and the Leverage Leadership Institute, they have really focused on improving schools and districts, but never have they partnered with a state agency to say, let's build a state model of support. So this is a national proof point for Relay and the Graduate School of Education, but it's a national model that will be brought on the shoulders of the people here in this district who are doing great work and are learning and are growing. Our goal truly is that we will learn from from what is happening in this district and that we will be able to scale it up on a continuum for principals throughout North Carolina. And the big piece that makes this different is that the model is grounded in ongoing coaching and support. It's not a one and done, it's not a sit and get. This is a fluid, in the bricks, we're gonna practice, we're gonna talk about how we're doing. It's intense. I will tell you that I have been through the training this summer, just like Dr. Roberts been through the training this summer, like your principals and some of the staff members. It is intense, but it will transform the way we do business. And when it's in the bricks, there is nothing that can't stop a school from achieving. And I fundamentally believe that. As a 28-year veteran educator in the state of North Carolina, I'm telling you, I'm growing and I'm being pushed. And so I feel like that's the messaging that we're also hearing from your principals and those that are involved. So
Also, we could recognize Ms. Jennifer and Dr. Wendy, who have been.
oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Critical parts here. And sorry, Ms. Wendy's behind, Dr. Wendy's behind me, Ms. Jennifer right here. But yes, critical partners here at the district level who are also part of this growing process together. Thank you, Dr. Robert, for out on that. I appreciate that. No, thank you. So, because we've all been drinking out of the fire hose in this work. So the partnership goals as we entered into this work together this year were really fourfold. We wanted to deepen our knowledge and skills about the levers of leadership, the 7 levers, which I'll share with you in a minute. We wanted to build capacity through proficiency with knowing what it is that we're supposed to do with these levers. It's one thing to know something, it's another thing to do something with it. We wanted to support this implementation with the select group of schools that were identified to be part of cohort 1. And we wanted to continuously engage in our partnership, our collaboration, and our strategic thinking with you here in this district. So what we know from Paul Bambrick-Centorio's body of research is that there are technically 7 things that he has identified through research and practice. This is not just what's in the books. This is because it is literally done in schools and districts throughout the world. When it boils down to it, there are 2 types of levers, instructional levers and cultural levers. The instructional levers are data-informed instruction. They help define rigor for us, and we then as teachers can adapt to meet our students' needs. The other lever is planning. You have to have a good plan in order to be able to execute these things in our classrooms. So how do we instructionally plan? How do principals observe and provide feedback to teachers as they are developing and growing? And then how do we provide professional development for the teachers to continue to grow in their experiences? So these are the instructional levers. Now, data-informed instruction has been identified as what is called the super lever, which means that when we can get our principals and our schools all lined up behind data-informed instruction, really defining what it is that we're going to teach, using formative assessment to guide us in our classrooms, and then holding ourselves to that standard, then we move quicker. So data-informed instruction of all the levers instructionally is what we consider the super lever, the thing that will move us quickest. The cultural levers are student culture, which means we think about student culture as being school's a good place to be, but what it also means is school is a place where learning can thrive. So we create a culture in our buildings where students know that they are there to learn, that is their fundamental job, is to be there to learn. We also know that staff culture is critically important. We have to build and support the right teams. But then we also have to manage school leadership teams, that we train our instructional leaders to expand impact. So it's not just the principal who holds the key to instructional leadership. It's every person in that building who is pulling in that same direction. Now, just like data-informed instruction is the instructional super lever, the super lever for culture is related to student culture. It's building the belief that we can all learn and creating systems and structures and buildings that make that happen. So that's sort of the quick and fast overview of Paul Bambrick-Centorio's body of work, but we can talk about how we are actually doing this work and what does the training model look like. So in the first year, so fortunately you have 36 schools, which divides very nicely for all my math friends in the room. So we can do 12 schools at a time, 12 cohorts, 12 schools in each cohort. So we've got the 12 schools who are listed here who bravely went where no man and woman had gone before and jumped into this work, very intensive graduate level work over the course of the summer. And we did this in a virtual environment. And when I say drinking out of a fire hose, Ms. Jennifer, Dr. Wendy, Dr. Robert, we are all sitting there in this space where we are learning. And you want to talk about a clinic in virtual instruction? Relay brought it. This is not your traditional virtual instruction. I have grown as a leader just knowing how to set up a meeting where it's engaging and highly interactive. So here are the 12 schools that are engaged. We also had Red Springs Middle, but they have had some transition, so we have another alternative for that. But the principal of the school and 2 staff members from the school all went through this graduate level course this summer. Very intensive work. The way that the training works is that we engage with the trainer from Relay. We watch a lot of video examples, exemplars, of how this should look in real time in classrooms, real time with teachers, principals to teachers, principal supervisors to principals. These people have given consent to have their worlds videoed. And then we watch that, we learn from that, and then we are divided into groups and we go practice that. And that's where it gets very uncomfortable because we're all learning something new, but by the end of it, we feel so accomplished. And that's what we saw with your leaders of these 12 schools, with the district leaders, with the state leaders who were also involved in this work. So we know that good can be the enemy of great, we've heard that, but also that great can be the enemy of good. And so what we've had to remind ourselves through the training is that we watched a lot of exemplar people in these video examples. So what we've asked your principals to do is to not allow those exemplars to hamper their enthusiasm for what can happen in their space. We're all learners, we're all growing. So we've asked your principals to think about what opportunities exist, what's their on-ramp in their buildings, and we're gonna go slow to go fast. And that's been sort of our motto here. Throughout the course of the year, the 12 schools that are involved in this work will engage in intercession training. We have one coming up on September 30th here. The relay trainers, instead of being virtual, will actually be with us, so we're super excited about that. At Richmond Community College, thanks Dr. Robert for being our liaison in Robinson, RCC, too many RCCs in my head, Robinson Community College. And then we have other intercession dates. But the biggest part, again, the biggest difference in this is that we will have ongoing coaching and support for these 12 schools. So as far as our training timeline, Dr. Emery, would you like to jump back up here? You can kind of see the big picture, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Again, 3 years, we have received funding for year 1 and are on our way under contract. Part of my job, while Jessica and this team are on the ground, I'm back at the ranch drumming up the dollars. So please know we are advocating. We are in the ESSER 2 budget. We anticipate at the October state board meeting an additional $2.3 million will come our way, which will help us cover year 2 or cohort 2. We also are in the ESSER 3 budget for approximately $18 million over 2 years. If you follow state governance, you will know that right now is caught between a House budget and a Senate budget. So if you have connections with your members of the General Assembly, we would greatly appreciate you saying the public schools of Robeson County can be an immediate and direct beneficiary of the request that the state board has made of the General Assembly for ESSER 3 dollars. That would carry us into that 24-25 school year. It would also allow us, if we wanted to look at, we got beyond principals, do we look at other leaders in this district? Do we look at assistant principals? Do we look at instructional coaches? So again, you can help us at no cost by saying, hey, we want DPI and the Department of Transformation there to see some reality in the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 budgets that live at the department. That will allow us to continue support. We do have commitment from the state board. We have commitment from our superintendent. I also will tell you, if these dollars don't come through, part of our liaison with the governor's commission is that the governor supports this work. And we're very confident. We don't want you to worry. We're going to see this thing through all 3 cohorts here. And so again, we'll stop here. Did you want to mention the school leadership coaches at all? I don't know that we talked about, that's also a part of this partnership that we.
Well, and part of what, in addition to the work for the NCILO work, your district also is receiving the benefit of 3 school leadership coaches. So the schools that are not involved with the 12, 18 of your schools, 1 coach per 6 schools, are getting different levels of support. And so we, again, in partnership with Dr. Williamson and this team, we're very closely connected. Part of the vision, again, is that every principal in this district this year, and this is a vision coming from your superintendent and the leadership team that's assembled here, that every principal will have a thought partner this year. In a time where principals need someone working side by side with them, shoulder to shoulder with them as thought partners, every principal has one. We have our leadership coaches that are working with 18 of your principals. We have coaches that are working with the 12 relay schools that come from relay. And then your district has also infused support to make sure that the other 6 schools also have a shoulder partner principal coach. And I can just tell you that those relationships, non-evaluative, somebody to bounce ideas off of during this time when being in that seat's probably very lonely. I'm not in that seat right now, but I have friends who are, and they're telling me it's kind of lonely. So I just want to thank your district for having the vision to support the principals, to build the capacity of your principals, and to know that they have someone that they can lean on. So we'll open it up for any questions or any comments.
Anybody have any questions? Dr. Manning?
I don't have questions, I just have comments. In being in education a long time, this is all the best ideas refashioned.
Yes.
Let me use it like the 7 effective leadership characteristics, the PEP program that train principals, and also a lot of the Sand Hills training.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, believe it or not, using exemplars to train people. The North Carolina writing program started that concept, using exemplars to train children how to do the best kind of writing. Also, DPI, what you guys do, like giving the coaching, going out helping people, all the best of the best concepts are put together by this, I guess, relay company, whatever the name of the company did. So, you know, to say there's nothing new.
That's right.
But I tell you what is new is taking the best of the best, what they've done, programs that used it, North Carolina has used, that were successful. They put them all together to train people. And being an old codger, there is value in all those programs.
Yes, ma'am.
And I can see the good in it.
Yes, thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
Terry Locklear's got the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Emery and Ms. Jessica, for putting this together. This is going to be a wonderful program, it seems. I had some initial questions that I'd written down, but I think you covered them during the presentation. This is a pilot program, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and there's going to be no cost to the school system.
So your district has chosen, so for instance, on the timeline, Cole, if you'll go back for me. So I think this demonstrates the commitment of your system to this work and how do we bring all principals together. So we're covering the cost of the relay partnership and the cohorts, and we've requested funding for years 2 and years 3. One of the things that has been a commitment of Ms. Jennifer, Dr. Robert, and Dr. Wendy is how do we then move all schools forward in this time where we all feel the pinch, that information that Dr. Williamson shared. So how do we get everybody moving in the right direction? We talked about the super lever of data-informed instruction. What you're going to see here is that on November 6th, your district has opted to choose to utilize some Title II, some professional development funds to contract with Relay for all principals and all academic coaches to do the one strand on that super lever, which is data-informed instruction. The 12 principals that have already been through the summer training have had DII. We've already had it. We're going to get it again. It's like a second dose because this is where principals lead professional learning communities. This is where they're working in concert with their teachers. They're planning. They're talking about instruction. So that is right now the cost that is being incurred by your district to support this. But that will just literally catapult you in your work. You've already started a great foundation. Dr. Wendy's working hard to get PLCs happening in the schools with the DeFore model. This will just be that next level that will bring them there.
Is this training focused on is it more so focused on the school or the individual?
It's more so focused on actions that the leader of the school does on a routine basis in order to move everybody forward. So the principal will be, what it really does is it trains the principal to be the instructional leader of the building. That is really what this is based on. Everything that the vision of your superintendent has laid out from the very get-go.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Henry's got the floor. Then you, Mrs.
Question is going to be around sustainability.
Oh, yes.
I think it's great what you're doing. We have just hired a lot of assistant principals. I think they should be included. And I'm leading to say, you know, say 4 years down the road, what is the state's involvement with this process? And what is the requirements from our end to make it sustainable?
Great question.
So part of this partnership in training people in your district and people at the department is that when this 3 years is up, we intend in 24, 25 to be as a state prepared and ready with the infrastructure. And I think one of the appealing things about Relay and Leverage Leadership Institute is he won't give us more than 3 years. So a lot of vendors want to keep coming back for the check. The mentality here is you need to create your own infrastructure. So it may be that we actually call on some of you to help us with districts in the region even, or allow folks to come in and see what you're doing with it. But if you get through these 3 years, you're going to have an infrastructure here. You could do your own training with your assistant principals. I think Dr. Williamson may want to speak to that. Our goal is that the department has created this academy so that we can branch out and begin to train across the state and use this as a model. So do we bring people in here to see what's happened in this district as a result of the commitment? I do want to say to the financial question as well, these folks would not have done business just with the district, right? So part of what we're bringing here is through this state agreement, the ability to train just in this district. The other part is we wouldn't have been able to do the things that you're doing to really leverage this. So the components that have happened through your ESSER plan, through your commitment to supporting principals at the building level, I just see this as perfect recipe for the kind of, you know, sort of acceleration of student outcomes that you're looking for.
Mr. Chair, follow up.
Right, I got you, then Mr. Gentry. Then did you have something?
What comes to my mind is just like what Dr. Emmanuel was mentioning, some of the previous programs. And now it's like we're reinventing in a similar but different fashion. That's why I'm asking two more in-depth questions about sustainability. From what I'm hearing now, it sounds like it's going to be mostly driven start and kept up by the superintendent. Am I correct?
I think your superintendent's vision and the platforms he's putting in place in the district have to be there, right? You don't, this doesn't happen if you don't have that vision. But I would also say that what you want is to build those leaders inside your district. So if the superintendent changes, that infrastructure is still there. Those people who know how to lead a building or to mentor others or to take 3 assistant principals and train them lives inside your district. And you're not relying on DPI or Relay or anyone else because you've built a strong enough group of folks inside your leadership team, your principals, that it lives here.
That's the beauty of this. This is not a program. This is investing in human capital, building capacity of how do I lead a building? How do I provide feedback to my teachers in real time? How do I lead a planning meeting? How do I know as the leader that the teachers know those standards? this is what this is. And when you build that capacity and it gets in the bricks, it permeates. Your teachers will be better teachers because your principals will be better leaders, instructional leaders. And to the point about the assistant principals, we have had conversations about how can we leverage the information that we have, and that while we may not tap into Relay, there are 4 people right now in this room who have been through this training and would feel very comfortable bringing on little cohorts of assistant principals and dipping them a little bit at a time. Although the focus we know is principal as instructional leader. So Dr. Williamson?
Yes, at the same time, we are going to institute, again, an AP Institute that will focus on that. So that's already in the works. I do want to speak to the sustainability. Part of turnaround and improvement, it impacts your budget so that you spend your money different. And so we're having those conversations already in terms of sustainability. As we grow and as we improve, we'll have money available that we can budget to that. Again, it's part of the planning, that long-term look of that. Jessica said it right. We're investing in people, not programs. And that's a critical piece. And at some point, we'll be able to look internally and solve our issues and our problems. Because we're trained the folks.
Mr. Gentry's got the floor.
Yeah. This looks like a very effective model to deliver training, and as I'm understanding it, the initial training is delivered to the principal and 2 staff members, and then they take it to their school and move it from there. And then it's data driven. That's probably one of the best things of all.
Yes, sir.
And you get quick results and able to go back and fine tune and retool whatever you need to do and,
That's it.
and go with it again.
It's all cyclical, and amidst all of that, that principal leading and those, and I did want to lift back up, thank you, the 2 staff members that are at every one of the 12 schools, 2 staff members, 2 teachers have also engaged in this. So they, from their lens, are thinking about how will this work in our school, and those principals are leaning on them. But amidst all of this cycle is this coaching cycle, so that never are they too far down the road without somebody being able to say, how's it going? Let me see how you're doing this. Let's talk through what's uncomfortable for you. So we just don't let them go out on their own forever and wander off into the prairie. We actually have people who are trained to help support the implementation, and that actually gets it more embedded more quickly. So that's something that makes this different.
Larry's got the floor.
Excuse me. Let me go back, making sure our ESSER money is going to help this as far as paying for this at what point, if any? Are we using any ESSER, or is all this coming from DPI to start with?
Staff development money.
So the department gets ESSER dollars just like you do. So the training has been paid for and the coaches through the ESSER dollars that come to the department. Your local ESSER plan has done some of these things that support your buildings and help your principals be built, have these other supports so they can grow their instructional leadership.
And then let me add one other thing. I'm gonna say this, when we started seeing assistant principals being put at all schools. We seen that a few months ago. I can't tell you how important it is to have, in my opinion, to have an assistant principal at every school. When that principal leaves, there's gonna be problems at the school. And when teachers have to come out of a classroom to take care of those problems, and now you've got somebody at the school that can deal with it, the principal then come back, they don't have to necessarily get into dealing with those problems, and they can follow up with this stuff. Because many times as a principal, you get training, you come back, you have no assistant, you have to start taking care of the school. So then you can't use the training that you've had. So by having the coaches, having the assistants, then that's where our principals will be freed up, to where they can go there and be that instructional person of the school, which many cases have not been able to do, especially if they were sitting there without an assistant.
Spoken like a principal.
Any other comments or questions? Brenda?
Then question, Ms. Jessica, you was up there and you were illustrating everything, and it reminded me of when I attended the training for the principals and assistant principals. Emmanuel was doing the teaching and coaching everybody. So I admonish you all and thank you all for coming. Chairman, Dr. Williamson, do we need to move this to action item? Okay. Let's start with it.
Any other comments or questions?
Can I just echo to our partners, thank y'all so much for the investment and for your time and energy and being available to us when we reach out. Thank you so much.
It's good to see y'all again. You got the
And we also have Dr. Sandra Evans and Mr. Andrew Davis that have also participated in
Thank you.
This time we'll move to the action items. NCSBA face covering policy, Dr. Williams and Attorney Grady Hunt. Grady, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Mr. Chairman and members, very quickly, Senate Bill 654 made a requirement on Boards of Education to adopt a policy of the use of face covering by employees and students. As you are aware, the Town School Boards Association adopted two model policies for us. What I want to share with you tonight that aligns with the plan that we have in place that we approved back in the summer with this policy. And that is policy 4231, 5021, 7263. It does align with the plan that we have in place. Very quickly, it does require face covering for students and employees and in the building. We did have exemption for our medical reasons, and I'll share that and updated with you tonight. Policy covers how to properly wear that. The issue has become a disciplinary issue. If we have failure by students to wear the face mask, you have the two policies, 4315, that explains that level one, grade one, and we're confident with parents and if we have an employee that failed to wear that is insubordinate, we did provide the option for employees to face mask or a face shield, which is part of this policy, so we provided that option. So that quickly does align with the plan that we have in place. Does require every month when you visit this, and so it will become part of the consent agenda automatically if there's an issue with that. Mr. Hunt, you have anything to add to it?
No, I think you covered it well. The only thing I was going to reiterate is the board has to review this policy on a monthly basis for the school year in case there's modifications to it, depending on how the COVID-19, what the trends are. So, yeah, I think everything was covered.
Members, I'm requesting approval of our face covering policy as drafted by the North Carolina School Board Association, 2231, 5021, 7263, option A, please.
Make motion that we approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Henry and second by Mr. Gentry.
Before we carry that vote, Mike, if we would set aside policy, is this an action?
Yes, already.
On action
Okay.
item, Greg.
I apologize. I'm looking at my agenda now.
Are we all right?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Have a motion by Henry and second by Mr. Gentry. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Mr. Fernandez, if you'll post this on our site, that is part of the requirement that we make it public. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Dr. Williamson, McGrady, is the Jewel Labs litigation retainer agreement.
Yes, this is a class action litigation where Jewel Labs, they manufacture, market, and distribute electronic cigarettes. There's a class action lawsuit against them. We've been asked to participate in the class action. It's on a contingency fee basis. It's not going to cost us anything. The firms involved will pay all the upfront fees. If they recover, we'll get our portion, and they'll get their 25% out of that portion. And if they don't recover, they're stuck with the fees that they expend during the litigation. The only other thing I would add that's in the agreement, if the court orders them fees, then they will take those fees unless that order doesn't get to the 25% and then that difference will come out of any recovery that the school system has. So it's a win-win for us. It's not gonna cost us anything. If there's a recovery, we'll benefit from it. If not, it's not gonna cost us anything.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion made by Brandon and a second by Henry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda is the Public Schools of Robbins County Beginning Teachers Support Program Plan by Thompson.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and all other members of the board. In your packets, you received our Beginning Teacher Support Program Plan. And within the plan, basically, there was one change, and that was the human capital piece that Dr. Williamson has already spoken about. We are investing in people. And so what we have done is moved from the 3 mentors who were overseeing or monitoring and supporting our beginning teachers. We have now moved to having 1 academic coach / mentor for each K-8 school. And at the high school level, we have mentors at each high school. And those were selected by the principal who felt our master teachers within the school and within the subject area would best support those beginning teachers at the high school.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Question.
Let me see if we get a second first.
Second.
Got a motion by Brenda, second by Terry. Now discussion.
Ms. Thompson, is this a separate position or is this a built-in position with the pre-existing teacher population?
This is within the ESSER plan, the academic coaches that we have selected for the K-8 schools.
Okay, so it's,
It's all one piece. Combination.
Craig?
So just to follow up that, so again, I know our academic coaches are called mentors, so they're serving as that purpose. On page 5 in this document, and it does just use the word mentor, but now on, we're just gonna call it coaches and mentors be one and the same. It does have a component in there about retired teachers. Is there any thought or has there been any discussion about hiring retired teachers just as mentors? As we have done a few years ago, is there any discussion on that or is that just something we haven't looked at yet?
Right, we have not hired any retired teachers as academic coaches / mentors. And as of tonight, if our recommendations are approved tonight, we will have all of our academic coaches / mentors employed for the school year.
So one more follow-up, not necessarily hiring those at all as an academic coach, just as a mentor. Right now, we're not looking at doing
Sorry,
that.
this time
Okay,
we're not.
thank you.
Talked to a few principals, and the principals feel pretty good about them being able to choose someone that will fit in their system and their program. Few I've talked to, so it sounds encouraging. I had Terry's hand up, then I had Mr. Gentry.
Just, a quick statement, there, I mean, philosophically, there's a difference in a coach and a mentor. It's not necessarily the same thing. I'm okay with what we have here, but I also, I wish we would get back into discussing our partnership with the university, with UNC Pembroke on our beginning teacher program. I think that's something that could complement what we're doing here. If that's something that we would like to, discuss maybe later on, that would be nice.
Mr. Gentry?
I want to make sure I understand the difference between a mentor and a buddy, because it mentions buddy as well as mentor. Can you shed a light for me on that?
Right, so in the past, we had mentors at the district level, and then within each school, the teachers had a buddy. Years ago, we had mentors at the school level, but we changed that and we went to district-wide mentors. So now we have a mentor at each school, K-8, and even at our high schools.
Dr. Emmanuel?
I think she addressed it.
You covered? Anybody else?
Call for the question.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the policy update by Mr. Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff, board members. The policy committee met on August the 26th to consider the 5,000 series. And you do have some updates in your packet regarding what the committee recommended, 5,000 series. And then on September the 7th, policy committee could consider the 6,000 series. You also have a copy of the proposed revisions, 6,000 series. So I make a motion that at this time, the board approve the revisions for both the 5,000 and the 6,000 policy series.
Second.
I have a motion made by the chairman of the committee, Mr. Gentry, second by Dr. Emmanuel. Any further discussion or comments about those policies? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda is Exceptional Children Contract Service, Dr. Robert Locklear. You have a question? Okay, well, hold on 1 minute, Dwayne. Dwayne?
Motion to approve it.
I have a motion by Dwayne and a second by Brenda to approve the Exceptional Children Contract Service. Any further discussion?
I just want to make one. Is that the one with the hearing impaired?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Deaf and hard of hearing.
Yeah, we're lucky to get somebody.
We were very fortunate to find her, so.
I mean, you can search the haystack and you can't find those, but I want to commend whoever did that.
Yes, we worked really hard trying to find her.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Next item on the agenda is sole source vendors. Ms. Erica Setzer. Dwayne?
Mike, I've had the pleasure of conversing with Ms. Setzer on this right here. And is there any question on the sole source vendors?
I have one question, and it's not about the vendor per se, but what grade levels, Ms. Erica, were they serving? I couldn't figure that out by looking at the PO.
Yeah, the CAMI is K-12. The Learn Edge is
5A.
5A, and the export is, I think it's 5A also.
Yeah, I'm going to support whatever Dwayne says. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Motion to approve the sole source vendors.
Second.
Motion by Dwayne, second by Dr. Emmanuel. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Also had the pleasure of discussing the financial report. And I would like to make a motion to approve it if there's not any discussion, not trying to take away your job, Mike.
Second.
Motion by Dwayne, second by Henry. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Last but not least, I have also had the pleasure. Motion to approve the school fundraisers.
Can I just add one part to that?
Add what?
Hey, Mr. Chair, can I add a part? I would like for someone, and I didn't think of it earlier, to check on the PTA for Shining Stars and see if it went defunct, because they were raising money and Shining Stars has a PTA to see if they want an opportunity to do fundraisers. Would you do that for us?
You gonna check on that, Dr. Robert?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Second Wayne's motion.
And before you go in,
Dwayne, do you have another comment?
yeah, before you go into closed session, I want to make a comment about something.
Vote on this before we go there.
Sir?
Let's vote, and then you can make any comment you want. Motion by Dwayne, second by Brenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Man,
I want to comment on the superintendent, whoever did this, this is a piece of gold right here. Now I can act like I know what I'm doing when someone calls me. Instead of saying I don't know. Thank you. The directory is just absolutely valuable. Thank you for the staff for doing this.
That's Bobby and that team.
Bobby,
Good job.
you may have Sunday afternoon off.
Larry's got it. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things, and this is a follow-up with some stuff happened earlier. And again, this goes with what Mr. Bobby has just worked on, whoever helped him. Just like to thank, it was reiterated earlier, everybody at the schools, and if I start saying teachers or custodians, it gets into being specific. I don't want to be specific. If you're in this school system now, you're going above and beyond. I don't care if it's maintenance, bus, wherever. And myself, and as I'm sure I speak for all the board members, we just thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
What's been put together here tonight, the book like Dr. Emmanuel just mentioned, but all those out there that's listening, and teachers, I know, as Mr. Dwayne said, we getting beat up, you're getting beat up. You're doing everything you can. And people at school are working hard, and we do appreciate it. We are aware of it because we're all getting out different places at different times. So again, just thank you for what you're doing each and every day. Also, like.
Round of applause.
Again, folks, that's everybody. Also, I'm chairman of the finance, and Mr. Randy is chairman of construction, and we had talked, and we would like to have a combination finance construction meeting. We're looking at September the 30th, which is on a Thursday at 6 o'clock. To kind of do a little bit of what we did last year, is bring things together and have ideas as far as having a plan on what we can do. And Dr. Williamson, I look at your schedule maybe while we go to closed session, and if it's possible, we can just come back and confirm that before we leave tonight. And just as a reminder on the finance is myself, Mr. Dwayne, Mr. Terry, and Mr. Vontae, and Miss Brenda. On construction, Mr. Randy is chairman. Mr. Mike is still on there. Mr. Henry Brewer, Mr. Vontae, Mr. Dwayne, and Miss Brenda is on construction. So if y'all would look at your schedules, Dr. Williamson, look at yours, and if we can, we'd try to do something September 30th, and we just get with me and we'll just confirm all of that before we leave tonight.
What time are you looking at?
6 o'clock.
6 p.m.
6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Not that morning.
There you go, Craig.
Not that morning.
Dr. Williams, I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at their emails and stuff, but Dr. Williams did send out an email today. You know, we talked about having another little board retreat end of the month, and we had some conflicts.
Workshop, the mic.
Workshop. Yeah, a local workshop.
Yeah.
So he's talking about that first Friday, the 1st, it's on October the 1st and the 2nd. So I don't know how everybody feels about that, but if we could work that out while Craig's talking about, that would be good if we can confirm that. Everybody pretty good with that?
That Fridays, I won't be able to do it.
Friday you wouldn't?
I wouldn't. I could do it that Saturday, but not that Friday.
I'll be going that Friday and Saturday. I'll be going that Friday and Saturday, previous event at ECU. Cause I'm getting honored and stuff for, school on both nights.
I'll make it work.
Don't let me stop y'all. Now y'all go ahead.
I said, I'll make it work.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm flexible.
You think that?
We can move it to the 3rd week, because I think we have some PD going on the 2nd week. We can look at that 3rd weekend if that would work.
Majority of people, don't let me stop you now. Y'all go ahead.
I'm having on the 3rd, but I'll be out of town. I'll be gone.
Shoot for that Friday and that Saturday then.
Yeah.
Be fine.
Some of you got some conflict.
Yeah.
I do. Okay. All right. Okay.
Congratulations, Brian.
All hearts and minds are
Okay.
clear. I'm gonna turn it over to Mr.
For,
Wilson for closed session.
Go ahead, Mr.
for the whole, no, this thing was on now.
Y'all ready?
Sure.
A motion that the Board of Education for the Public Schools of Robertson County go into closed session for the purpose of discussing certified and classified personnel. North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A16, student transfers, North Carolina General Statute 115C-402, and North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1, and to consult with the attorney obtained by the board to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the Board of Education for the Public Schools of Robertson County, North Carolina. General Statute 143-318, A1 and 3.
Have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Randy, second by Brandy. Before we go into closed session, if y'all with your closed session minutes, so put them on the corner of this desk for Miss Brenda. Your closed session minutes before we take it. Motion say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion come out of closed session.
Second.
Motion by Vontae, second by, come out of closed session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Approve closed session minutes.
Motion by Brenda,
Second.
second by Vontae to approve the closed session minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved personnel as presented.
Have a motion to move to, are you talking about these two sheets, or are you talking about just these two sheets right now?
Second.
Had a motion and a second motion by Brenda, second by Henry to move to approve personnel as presented with the revisions. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman and members, I'm requesting approval of the salary, of the salary changes for those teachers. Then ask for approval for Ms. Erica, what we shared in that information package, please.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion by Brenda, a second by Vontae. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
And also, that did include that 1% increase supplement for all classified employees. That included that we have on.
To start in November, is that correct? Is that what you said there?
Starting in November, yes.
Yeah. That includes that. Do we need to revisit it or revote it, or is that take care of everything, Grady?
So clarify, Dr. Williamson, what the intent is on that motion.
Okay,
The
so
first personnel was to approve
the reconciliation of those salaries, to reconcile those salaries, that will pay them at the higher level. And then the second,
and add the 1% for all classified personnel.
that's correct, and then approve, Erica's.
Erica's as presented.
Yes,
That should be the motion.
okay.
With the second part of it, when you say presented it with the second revision in that.
Yeah.
You have a question, Terry?
I thought we were gonna do the 2%.
That's gonna make it to.
We did do that.
That's gonna make it.
In addition,
Make it two.
Gotcha.
for a total.
Any other questions? We need to revote it, Grady?
Yeah, so to be clear, what we're voting on the initial sheet to bring everybody into yellow, change those salaries to 8% for Mr. Hammonds, increase the supplement for all classified personnel for 2%, and to change Erica's salary as presented.
Yes.
Yeah.
I make such motion then if we have to do an alternate.
Second.
Have a motion to confirm what Grady just read. Motion by Henry, second by Brenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you, members.
I'm good with that. Before you adjourn, I want to say a comment. Are we ready to adjourn?
Think so?
Mr. Vontae, couldn't meet, or there was a conflict with you in October. They couldn't hear what you were saying. I know you don't like this. Tell them why you couldn't meet in October where they can hear it.
Distinguished alumni for East Carolina University.
Congratulations again.
I'll take a motion.
I move, Mr. Chairman. Adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Henry to adjourn. Say aye.
Aye.